I wanted to go over my wish list for 2K27. The first idea is something I've been wanting for years now, and that is the ability to decide what inbound play is going to be called during timeouts. In the current game, when a timeout ends, I always find myself in this rushed panic to pull up the play call menu and scroll through options and not even really know which one does what. And maybe it's just me, but I don't know how to call that specific inbound play for a specific player. It's also easy to fumble your button presses when you're rushing and select the wrong play. It can get very hectic, especially during end of game situations. I know there are probably workarounds to this that involve assigning a play to a specific player in the coach settings, but that just isn't ideal to set up every single time you enter a game, especially if you're using different teams each time. Plus, it doesn't make sense that we're deciding this after the timeout and not during the timeout, since a lot of the time that is one of the reasons the timeout was called, to get a good shot coming out of it. What would make this even cooler is if we ever got the ability to draw up our own plays. I get why this isn't a feature yet. There's a lot of ways it could get really cheesy online, but it's something I would like to see eventually added. Number 2, we need to see the new salary cap rules added to the game, and it needs to be done in an easy to understand way. Ignore this screen for a second. I know it looks a little convoluted with information, but I'm going to walk you through it. Just in case you haven't been paying attention, the NBA added new rules like the first apron and second apron to deter teams from just spending their way to a championship. The new rules are a little complicated, but I think there is a way to understand them by just making sure a few essentials are made clear. Number 1, the user has to know what spending tier they are currently in. Number 2, the user needs to be shown what penalties they are currently facing based on what spending tier they are in. In this example, the Magic are above the second apron, and therefore this total right here is flashing red. And somewhere in the UI, the player can be shown what penalties are currently being applied and how to fix the issue. The warnings that are displayed here would obviously change based on what tier you are in. So if you're in the first apron, your pick would not be frozen, for example. If you are a team in the luxury tax, you might get a warning that says you need to stay under the luxury tax for 2 out of the next 3 seasons in order to reset your tax penalty multiplier. If you are under the luxury tax, this area could display other messages like, hey, player X is eligible for a 3-year extension starting on this date. Or you have a traded player exception worth this much that expires on this date, etc. If this screen feels like there's just too much going on, I agree. It was just a quick AI generation to get the point across. But we can make it so that it's 5 columns instead of 6, for example, or you can increase the row sizes and force the user to scroll to see all the contracts so it's not just like all the information at once. I personally like seeing everything visible to get a clearer picture of what I'm dealing with. And through this menu, if you are the Orlando Magic, for example, and you see that you're about 7 to 8 million above the second apron, you can dissect your roster from a distance and decide, okay, which players are candidates to be salary dumped somewhere. So you could see that, okay, my best candidates to remove from the team are Jonathan Isaac or Jet Howard. And you can, from this screen, you can click on their name and trade them. You wouldn't have to go to another menu, or you wouldn't have to go to the trade roster screen or any of that. This would be basically your GM headquarters or your GM command center. This actually leads into my next wish list item. Number 3, free agency is broken. Maybe there is a workaround that people have discovered to this, but I shouldn't be starting the regular season with a free agency pool that looks like this. It's unrealistic. These guys wouldn't just choose to sit out an entire season because no one has enough cap space to even bid on them. I think this is a result of poor roster building and financial planning by the teams that are controlled by the CPU. They are not great at recognizing what stage of their rebuild their team is at, and therefore they don't even seem capable of planning ahead financially. This is where I think having that multi-year table from earlier would help the computer teams realize, like, hey, we need to cut spending because next year we're going to be a second apron team again, and we really can't have that. So having these rules in place, having the AI, the CPU aware of them, might help alleviate some of these free agency issues. Number 4, smart rotation adjustments by the AI. Rotation logic has been an issue for maybe a decade now. We've all experienced this where you're playing a game against the CPU and they close out the first half with their bench unit. They never bring their starters back in to close the half. And if you take one look into a team's default smart rotation, you can see why. The CPU's AI can never get rotations looking realistic. Every team you look at will have the same second quarter issue. We have enough real-world rotation data that's been logged maybe like 15 or 20 years now that I think we can train the AI on this information and have it come up with better answers. Or at the very least, it can be used to apply some hard rules. There are multiple ways to go about this, and I would love to dive deeper into this, but to keep it brief, deciding who gets to close the second quarter can be decided by how many minutes are assigned to a player in the normal rotation screen. And from there, the AI can create a smart rotation that chooses to close the second quarter with the 5 players who have been allocated the most minutes in the regular rotation screen. An example of this would be Keith Bogans on the 2011 Bulls. He would start games, but Kyle Korver would come off the bench and actually had more minutes assigned to him, and he would end up closing each half. So the rules I just explained, where you assign closing responsibilities to players that have been assigned the most minutes, would fix that. It would get you the same results as that Chicago Bulls team. That's a little too simplistic, but you can also just let coaches' preferences be a factor as well. That helps in deciding between 2 players that have similar minutes. Maybe one coach likes defense, maybe one coach likes shooting. Also, whatever fits the system. Maybe it's a pace and space system and you got one guy that's better at shooting. You can actually see, looking at the second halves, that the AI knows that you're supposed to be closing with these starters. So there's something there where it just needs to be translated into the first halves. Maybe you just have the AI build out that second half and duplicate it in the first half. Like, there's no reason that the first and second halves need to have different rotations ahead of time. Like, that's not really a thing. Teams don't really decide that. It's usually a duplicate. With all that said, I'm looking forward to finding out more information on 2K27. I don't plan on putting out a roster this year because if 2K27 looks promising, I'm just going to have to rebuild everything in a month. That's 2 rosters in 1 month. In 1 month, I really don't want to do that with the limited spare time that I have. But I'm hoping that they keep the body edits in 2K27. I think that feature is crucial for console gamers. We don't have the ability to download mods that have better body proportions. So having the body edits has been crucial for me the last couple of years. And judging by your guys' reactions to my videos, I know a lot of people appreciate them on this channel as well. So I'm hoping that stays in the game. If anyone can get me early information on that would be greatly appreciated. But stay tuned.